Okay, we're going to still continue with our decimal unit, and we're on lesson 11. I can compare and order mixed numbers in various forms. So we're going to see improper fractions, we're going to see decimals, we're going to see a whole number with a fraction, which we call mixed numbers. We're going to see all different ones, and we're going to have to be able to place them from least to greatest, greatest to least. So let's get started. Okay, so we're going to plot the following points on the number line using the decimal form. So when we're looking at this number line, we're going to be able to say which decimal is the least, and then we could be able to see it and see how they're the greatest. So when we're looking at this number line, we actually can see that we have 5 tenths, 6 tenths, 7 tenths, and 8 tenths. So it's broken up into tenths, but then remember that in between each one of these tenths, there's another tenths, which represents the hundredths. So as you could see, we're going to be placing some of these decimals and fractions in the hundredths place on this number line. So let's start with 0.6, 6 tenths. Well, where is 6 tenths on this number line? Well, we see it right here, 6 tenths. Okay, so we already placed 6 tenths. Next one is 5 tenths on the number line. So remember, 5 tenths looks like, as a decimal, because it's in the tenths place, 0.5. So 5 tenths. Well, where do you see 5 tenths? We see it right here. So we're going to place 5 tenths right here, because 0.5 and 5 tenths, they are equivalent. And then we're going to look at 0.76. So that's 76 hundredths, because the 6 is in the hundredths place. So let's do a number bond for 76 hundredths. Let's break this up. How many tenths do we have? Well, we have 7 tenths. How many hundredths? We have 6 hundredths. So now we can place this. Well, we see that 7 tenths is right here. So that would represent right here 7 tenths. But we need to add on the 6 hundredths. So the 6 hundredths is going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 hundredths is going to go right here. So this spot represents 76 hundredths. So I'm going to put 76 hundredths. All right, so now we're moving on. Well, now I see another fraction. I see 79 hundredths. So we know that in 79 hundredths, the 7, what does 79 hundredths look like as a fraction? I mean a decimal, let's say that. All right, so it is 0.79. The 9 is in the hundredths place. So if we take this, we know that there is 7 tenths, and we know that there is 9 hundredths. So let's locate 7 tenths on the number line. Right here, 7 tenths. But then we have adding on 9 hundredths to that. So 9 hundredths is going to be right about here. So we are going to place our 79 hundredths over here. So this is 79 hundredths. All right. The next one is 0.53, 53 hundredths. So let's do a number bond for this one. We've got 5 in the tenths, and we've got 3 in the hundredths. Well, as we know, we can see that over here is 5 tenths. So this plot right here represents 5 tenths. Now, but we have to add on 3 hundredths. So 1, 2, 3. So over here would represent the 3 hundredths, including our 5 tenths, which is 53 hundredths, or 0.53, 53 hundredths. All right, our last one is 67 hundredths, And if we want to make a number bond of that one, we would do 67 hundredths. And we've got 6 tenths. And we get 7 hundredths. Well, where is 6 tenths on our number line? Right here. This is 6 tenths. So that would represent 6 tenths here. Would go right there. But we need to add on 7 hundredths. Now remember, this has been split up into tenths, but then in between those tenths is another tenths, which represents hundredths. So we go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 hundredths goes right there. So this represents 67 hundredths on the number line. So if we look at our number line, we can say, well, 5 tenths is the smallest, and the greatest would be 79 hundredths, because it's closer to the 8 tenths. So 79 hundredths is the greatest, and 5 tenths is the smallest. All right, the next one is going to arrange the following numbers in order from greatest. All right, there's that key. We have to make sure we're reading our these words carefully, because this is the greatest to the least now. Okay, using decimal form. Use the greater sign symbol between each number. All right, so what we want to do, because they're asking you for decimal form, we need to convert these into decimals. So right now we have got fractions right here, mixed numbers and fractions. We got some word form right here, unit form, and then got 4 1. So we got to be able to put these into decimal. So I'm just going to lay them out. So we have 4.03, 4 and 3 hundredths. We get 4 ones, 33 hundredths. Well, 33 hundredths, that's 33 over 100. So we have no holes, but the last 3 is in the hundredths place. 34 hundredths, no holes, but we do have the 4 is in the hundredths. Then we've got 4 and 43 hundredths. Well, then we have a hole, adding on 43 hundredths. Now, and then I'm going to skip this one right here, 430 over 100, because guys, that's the one that we're going to have to work on to pull out those holes, because this is an improper fraction. Cannot leave an improper fraction. We got to pull out those holes. So I'm going to leave that one by itself right now, and I'm going to look at this one. The next one, well, that's already in the regular form, decimal form, 4 and 31 hundredths. Now let's look at 430 over 100. Well, this is an improper fraction, so we got to pull those holes out. And when we pull those holes out, we've got 100 over 100. We got another 100 over 100. Another one, so that's 3 hundredths. And I can pull another hole, which would represent 400. So how many holes do we have? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 holes. And then we only have, and then we're left with 4 and 30 over 100. And guys, if you could look at this, we could reduce this fraction right here and make it into 4, and we can divide the top and the bottom by 10. I've shown you this before. And in the numerator we get a 3, and in the denominator we get a 10. So it's 4 and 3 tenths. Well, what does 4 and 3 tenths looks like as a decimal? Well, we got 4 holes, and 3 is in the tenths place. So now what they're asking to do, now that we have taken care of all of this, we converted our improper fraction now and we put it into a decimal form. We now have to put it from greatest to least. Well, which one fraction has the greatest one? Well, or decimal. Well, here's a 4, here's a 4, here's a 4, here's a 4, and down here. So I can tell that 4 and 3 tenths, 4 and 31 hundredths, 4 and 43 hundredths, you could tell right now in the tenths. The tenths is a 4 in it. That is the greatest, because this has a 0. This has no decimal next to it. This has a 3 and this has a 3. So this one right here is the greatest. So I'm going to put, greatest is 4 and 43 hundredths. Okay, well, what would come next? We can cross this guy out. What comes next is, well, I look over here. I see 4 and 31 hundredths, but then don't forget this guy, 4 and 3 tenths. Well, they both have a 4, and next door, there's a 3 tenths, but then this one has a 1 hundredths in it. I'm looking over here and I see that I needed to join these go together. Wasn't paying attention there. So this one becomes 4 and 33 hundredths. So this one comes next, 4 and 33 hundredths. So we can cross this one out. Then we're going to go to 4 and 31 hundredths, because this one has a hundredths, this one doesn't. So obviously the next one is going to be 4 and 3 tenths. We can cross him out, This guy too, because that really is 4 and 3 tenths. And then we can continue on. And then we've got 4 and 3 hundredths. And then we're going to the least. And the least one is 34 hundredths. All right, so here we have the greatest, which is 443 hundredths, to the least, which is 34 hundredths. All right, and our last one, we have in a paper airplane contest, Matt's airplane flew 9 and 14 hundredths meters. Jenna's airplane flew 9 and 4 tenths meters. Ben's airplane flew 904 over 100 meters. Leah's airplane flew 9 and 1/10 of a meter. Whose airplane flew the furthest? So this is the key right here. The farthest. So this is basically saying the greatest. Okay, so we're looking for that greatest decimal. All right, so I'm going to stack my decimals here. So 9 and 14 hundredths. We get 9 and 4 tenths. And we get 904 hundredths. Uh-oh. That one is what we call an improper fraction. We got to turn that into a mixed number. And then we can turn it into a decimal. And then the last one is 9 and 1/10. So let's start converting the ones that need to be converted. So we have 9 and 14 hundredths, because the 4 is in the hundredths place. We've got 9 and 4 tenths, so we have 9 wholes, and the 4 is in the tenths place. I'm going to skip the improper fraction and go to 9 and 1/10, because that one's done for us already, because the 1 is in the tenths place. All right, so now let's focus on this improper fraction. We have 904 over 100. That can't happen. So guys, like I've taught you, what we learned in the fraction unit, we need to pull out those wholes. Well, how many wholes do we have in 904? Well, we got the first one is 100ths. Hundredths. All right, this is going to go all the way to 9 times. Crazy, right? But that's how we pull out the wholes. I want you guys just to see us pulling out the wholes. If you guys can just know that there's the 900 and you want to pull out the 9, you can do that. Okay. Got 2 more. There's my 800 and my 900. And we're left with, we can't make another one, so we're left with 400. So we've how many How many holes do we have? Well, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 holes. So this all equals 9 and 4 hundredths, because the 4 is in the hundredths place. So now we have to find which one flew the farthest. Who has the greatest amount of meters? Well, let's look at these carefully. Every one of these has 9 holes. So they're all equal at that point. They all have 9 holes. Let's go to the tenths. This one has a 1/10. This has 4 tenths. This has 1/10. And this has no tenths. So automatically, we've got 9 and 4 tenths is the greatest. So let me write this out. So 9 and 4 tenths goes first. All right, what comes next is either between these two, because it has 1/10 and 1/10. This doesn't have any tenths. So that is equal, 1/10 and 1/10. But this one has 4 thousandths. This doesn't have any thousandths. Excuse me, hundredths. Sorry. This is a hundredth, 4 hundredths. This has no hundredths. So in that case, this one is the next greatest number because it has the 4 in the hundredths place, whereas the other one doesn't. So the other one comes 9 and 1/10. Then we finish off with 9 and 4 hundredths. So the one who got the biggest amount would be Jenna's airplane right there. Jenna's airplane flew the farthest. All right, guys, now it's your time to see how much you've learned. All right, so you're going to find out which one of these decimals, fractions, mixed numbers, improper fractions. Be careful, this one goes together, like the little mistake that I made, 17 ones and 5 hundredths, that's in unit form. So, and this one is an improper fraction, so be careful of that one. We want to figure out who is the least and who is the greatest. Keep popping away, guys. Great job today. Keep up the great work. Have a wonderful day.